Online game, I possess a monster merging simulator. Chapter 311, Grand Invitation. At the Night Elves camp. I didn't expect you to build your own city at such a young age. It's unexpected. Please forgive me for my offense just now. I'm very sorry. Elwynn apologized respectfully. It's okay, I was too rash. Lorne smiled politely. Just now, Mr. Tyrant said that he can trade the dragon blood grass with us. Is this true? Of course. How many dragon blood grass do you have now? Elwynn asked. Lorne did not answer directly. Instead, he asked, "Can I ask how much dragon blood grass you need first?" A lot. It might take tens of thousands. Elwynn frowned and explained in a low voice, "Perhaps you don't know the meaning of the dragon blood grass to us night elves. Dragon blood grass is a rare herb that will only grow after the blood of dragons is watered and the dragon aura is absorbed. In a very ancient era, our night elves were a race that specialized in following the dragon of darkness. The dragon of darkness used the dragon blood to help us raise our aptitude, giving us the potential to become phantom assassins. Unfortunately, thousands of years ago, the dragon of darkness, Theodore, joined the dark abyss, causing the night elves to be implicated. Their status began to waver. Other elves could more or less obtain the favor of the dragon of emerald, but the night elves had never received kindness. Just like that, as time passed, fewer and fewer night elves in our race had the aptitude to be phantom assassins. Right now, the night elves are facing a life and death threat. We urgently hope to have enough phantom assassins. Only then can we survive this calamity. The dragon blood grass is the key to increasing our aptitude. Without the help of the dragon god, only the dragon blood grass can allow my people to evolve into phantom assassins. As for the number of dragon blood grass I want, it's actually related to the number of phantom assassins created. I need about 1,000 dragon blood grass to nurture a rank 1 phantom assassin. If I still want to raise it later, I need more dragon blood grass. According to my calculations, if we want all 300 night elves to survive, we need at least 20 rank 1 phantom assassins and a few rank 2 phantom assassins. To fulfill this requirement, we need at least tens of thousands of stalks of dragon blood grass. At this point, Elwynn sighed and looked at Lorne with a bitter smile. I know that tens of thousands of dragon blood grass are like a dream, but I hope that Mr. Tyrant can generously sell us the ones you currently have. Even if there are only a few hundred, it will be very useful to the current tribe. Hundreds of them? Lorne did not know whether to laugh or cry. This elven queen looked down on him, the city lord of the cold desolate dragon city. Too much. How could a few hundred dragon blood grass be considered resources? In the beginning, he had planned to donate tens of thousands of them for free. But now, it seemed that free donation was not a good plan. With that in mind, Lorne said, "If you only need these dragon blood grass, I can give you an answer now. Cold desolate dragon city can fulfill your request." Before Lorne could finish, the night elves in the room were shocked. It could be achieved? He said he could provide it. Did he really have tens of thousands of dragon blood grass? How was this possible? The night elves discussed it and found it unbelievable. Even Elwynn froze on the spot. When she recovered, she quickly asked, "Is what you said true? Does cold desolate dragon city really have tens of thousands of dragon blood grass?" Of course. Lorne nodded and continued, "However, the dragon blood grass is a high-level rare herb. Even the stockpile of the cold desolate dragon city is not high. It's impossible for me to give you these herbs for no reason. To be honest, if not for Aisha, I would not have chosen to discuss this with you. However, since there's such a relationship, I can't be too heartless. How about this, Queen Elwynn? If you really want these dragon blood grass, I can give them to you, and I'll sponsor you for free. However, the premise is that you have to agree to a request of mine." Request? What request? Elwynn looked at him questioningly. I need you to join the cold desolate dragon city. On the account of your affiliation, the cold desolate dragon city will give you the dragon blood grass for free. How about it? Lorne asked. This, Elwynn hesitated for a moment, then sighed helplessly. Ever since we lost the protection of the Dragon of Darkness, our night elves have completely become an abandoned race and have been bullied in the elven kingdom. Our race has also suffered countless indifference and humiliation, and we have even been hunted by other elves. To be honest, there's nothing we can't give up now. I'm glad you're willing to accept us, but unfortunately, during our escape, we have removed the dark aura suppressed in our bodies many times and relied on the power of darkness to survive until today. We have long been corroded by the dark power. Soon, we will be the minions of the darkness and lose ourselves. Although I really want to agree to your invitation, we no longer have this right. Mr. Tyrant, thank you very much. As Elwynn spoke, she suddenly could not help but cough. A scarlet color suddenly appeared in her eyes, making her look abnormally ferocious. Lorne frowned upon seeing this. The situation was indeed not optimistic. This night elf queen had long been poisoned deeply. The power of darkness had been corroding her body. If this continued, it would not be long before she completely degenerated into a dark elf. Noticing Lorne's gaze, Elwynn smiled bitterly. As you can see, the power of darkness can no longer be suppressed in my body, but there are still countless people chasing after us in the outside world. Perhaps it won't be long before we can no longer remain rational. With that, the other elves lowered their heads. In their eyes, a blood-colored light also appeared. This was the result of being corroded by the dark power, and it was already irresistible. It could only slow down the spreading speed. Originally, they hated the dark elves very much, but due to the external pressure, they were forced to walk on the edge of the darkness and were even about to fall into it. Chapter 312, Saving the Ancient Tree of Life. Lorne did not want to see these beautiful elves become dark elves who only knew how to kill, so he asked, there should be a way to expel this dark power, right? Is it possible to expel the dark power? Elwynn muttered to herself as rich black energy spread from her body. Her eyes were extremely scarlet, and her fingers could not help but dry up like dried corpses that had been completely weathered. Mother! Aisha ran up and quickly transferred her energy. However, she was rejected. It's okay, Aisha. This dark energy can't threaten my life for the time being, but you have to remember that if you want to lead the race in the future, you cannot let any elf touch this evil energy again. Otherwise, you will also completely fall to the dark side. Elwynn was not too emotional. Even death was an understatement to her. Regardless, she still wanted to place her hopes on Lorne. With that in mind, she looked at Lorne and said, Adventurer, now that more than 200 of the night elves have been corroded by the power of darkness, these people are not qualified to accept your invitation. However, the remaining 100 or so young night elves have not been infected. Therefore, I promise you on their behalf that these 100 or so people will all join the cold desolate dragon city. I hope you can bring them to the path of light. Ding! Game announcement, the leader of the night elves, Elwynn, has sent you a request, save the night elves. Mission description, as an abandoned race, the night elves are facing a life and death situation. Leader Elwynn, who cannot see hope, has decided to let the remaining night elves join the cold desolate dragon city and seek protection. Mission requirement, protect their safety and maintain their dignity. You will receive the approval of all the night elves. A system notification appeared. Looking at the reluctant mother and daughter in front of him, Lorne made a decision. He first accepted this mission, then looked at Elwynn and said seriously, if there's a way to expel the dark power, perhaps I can give it a try. As for the night elves, I want all of you to survive. Cold desolate dragon city lacks strength, and you are assassins that I value. Adventurer, Elwynn stared blankly at Lorne for a while, then said, in that case, I'll leave it to you. Originally, this mission had a very high requirement, but we don't have time to wait anymore. Moreover, I completely trust you, Mr. Tyrant. You can definitely complete this mission. In fact, we elves can rely on ourselves to drive out the dark energy, because we are elemental bodies and have a very high resistance to dark power. However, because we have tacitly approved or even borrowed the power of darkness, this power has already taken root in our bodies. Just our own strength is no longer enough to drive it out. However, we still have the ancient tree of life. It has the purest life essence. As long as we have the help of this energy, we can expel the corrosion on our bodies and recover our pure elemental bodies. However, our ancient tree of life has already begun to wither because it has been transporting too much energy, and the water of life that it has been watered with is insufficient. It can no longer treat any elf unless you can bring the water of life and the soil of life to quickly recover the tree's vitality. Elwynn explained seriously to Lorne. Ding! Would you like to accept the hidden mission, save the ancient tree of life? Another mission appeared. Without thinking, Lorne agreed. Even if it was for Aisha, he had to complete this mission, because the quest for the second chapter of the Holy Angel's resurrection was to rely on the ancient tree of life to help Aisha obtain a complete elemental body. Perhaps because of Lorne's synthesis or other factors, the current Aisha did not have a complete elemental body. Such a body definitely did not meet the requirements of the Holy Angel Gabriel, which was why such a mission appeared. Thank you for your generous help, Mr. Tyrant. The water of life is near the moon's reflection lake. Every evening, for 10 minutes, the center of the moon's reflection lake will absorb the light of the stars and produce the water of life. However, the water of life needs to be collected by elves, and there are powerful monsters around. I think you need some help. How about this, Mr. Tyrant? I'll send a powerful elf team to accompany you to the moon's reflection lake to collect the water of life. Elwynn said seriously. Are there many monsters in the moon's reflection lake? Lorne did not want to bring too many people. After all, more people affected his speed. However, Elwynn looked at him very seriously and said, many. The water of life is extraordinary for elves. When the water of life is condensed, the energy gathered will have the effect of increasing the strength of many monsters, so they will definitely gather in the lake. At that time, you will face the attacks of dozens, or even hundreds of powerful monsters. In addition, the water of life can only be collected by pure elves, so we who are infected cannot help you. The strength of those young elves is very limited, so this team might have to lose 80% of its members to collect enough water of life. With that, Elwynn sighed again. For the sake of these infected elves, letting those children rush into the dangerous moon's reflection lake was practically suicide. This filled Elwynn with guilt. However, they had to go. After all, Mr. Tyrant was willing to help them like this. How could they give up? Other than fighting once, there seemed to be no other choice. I see. Lorne pondered and asked, if the reason for sending so many young elves to participate in the operation is that their strength is limited, then what if they are powerful? Will they only need 1 or 2 elves to complete the harvest of the water of life? Of course, but we can't raise their strength in the short term. Other than using numbers to fill the gap, there's no other way. Elwynn shook her head. If she could do that, how could she make such a suggestion? As she sighed to herself, Lorne took out a new herb and said, what if we use this? Dragon blood grass. Elwynn's eyes lit up, and she said in surprise, does Mr. Tyrant have enough dragon blood grass? There are still more than 10,000 stalks, Lorne said casually. That's great. Elwynn hugged Lorne happily. She was so excited. Lorne, on the other hand, felt a little satisfied. Young was not as satisfying as voluptuous, especially the feeling brought about by such a beautiful elf. With these dragon blood grass, we can immediately raise a few powerful phantom assassins. The crisis of the race can be temporarily resolved. Elwynn smiled, then looked at Lorne and said, it will take a few hours to raise the elves. Please wait a moment. Yes, no problem. Lorne nodded and checked the time. It was already night time, and he could go offline to rest. He was indeed tired from running for several days. Chapter 313, Merging Demoness. After going offline, Lorne sent the sisters a message to gather. Today, after wandering around the Night Elves' camp for a day, there were seductive Night Elves everywhere. Every one of them had their own characteristics, and every one of them was too perfect. Perhaps this was what an elf was. Elves were the most perfect race in the world, especially in terms of appearance. Lorne looked on helplessly. He could not do that in the game for the time being. He could only return to reality and enjoy it. Jessica and Nina arrived quickly, and the three of them fought again. Lorne was physically strong, and it was easy for him to exercise for a few hours. However, he could not withstand the continuous bombardment of the sisters, especially Nina. Although she was young, he did not know if she had deliberately read the learning materials in the past 2 days, but there were many more tricks, which made it difficult for Lorne to hold on. In the end, he almost surrendered. Fortunately, little Lorne was hard enough to pull through. Therefore, the two sisters begged for mercy. At dawn, the two sisters limped back to their house. In his villa, Lorne checked the information in the game. It could be seen that the discussion on the forum was abnormally crazy. As Divine Realm opened the intimate interaction system, the players discussed their goals. After all, the female NPCs in the game were as beautiful as they could be. Most importantly, they were exotic. From the contents of everyone's discussion, it could be seen that the most popular creature currently was the perfect creature in the world elf. It was the greatest dream of the players. Then, there were the feline girls, fox girls, and other beastmen NPCs. Due to the fact that the beastmen had some attributes of wild beasts, such as cat ears and fox tails, it triggered the players' curiosity, especially the gentle feeling of the feline girls, which made countless players go crazy. Of course, this was not the reason why the players were the craziest. What made the players crazy was the difficulty of conquering beautiful women. In reality, if one wanted to conquer a beauty with 90 points, they had to be handsome and rich enough, especially rich. Otherwise, the probability was almost zero. As for things like money, if one did not have it when they were born, then when they grew up, they would definitely not have much. At least 99% of people were like this. Therefore, the boys in reality did not dare to have such extravagant hopes. However, it was different in the game. Although it was difficult to obtain the affinity of a close friend, it was not impossible. Even if one was a rookie player, as long as one was willing to continuously tackle an NPC, when the requirements of this NPC were not that high, the success rate would be great. As long as one was willing to spend time, they would definitely succeed in the future. Therefore, these players went crazy, and even the rich tycoons went crazy. After all, they were already sick of playing with beautiful women in reality, and beautiful women like elves and feline girls who had the flavor of the other world could give them a great feeling. Therefore, this was basically an era of craziness. Lorne did a cursory inspection and found that some of the discussions were very interesting. Especially the topic regarding the Demoness. Demoness. An idea suddenly occurred to Lorne. He finally knew what he had forgotten. When he had obtained the monster merging simulator, in addition to becoming stronger, he had a very secret idea. However, at that time, he was anxious to become stronger and obtain money, so he did not investigate this idea. When he saw the word Demoness, he was enlightened. Indeed, it was the Demoness. At that time, he was thinking about the Demoness. Unfortunately, his previous thoughts were not clear enough, so he had been very vague. But now, he understood everything. What he wanted to do was actually use his synthesis ability to create a Demoness that did not exist in this world but often appeared in the fantasy world. For example, the Spider Lady. For example, Centaur. For example, Snake Girl. These were all monsters. Think about it, if any monster beside you could be feminine, what would it be like? Cat Girl, Wolf Girl, Spider Girl, Dragon Girl, etc. The synthesized Demoness was different from the Beastman in the game. Moreover, after merging, Lorne could immediately have a high affinity with the other party, and the development of their relationship was far faster than other players. What did this mean? It meant that Lorne would soon have a chance to interact intimately with the Demoness. Heavens! How could he have forgotten about this? Lorne felt regret. Of course, in the past, he had always treated Divine Realm as a money-making tool. However, ever since he had sex with Jessica and triggered his most primal desires, he could not stop himself. Perhaps because of materialization, or because he had been in the game for too long, he could not distinguish reality from virtual reality, causing him to bring whatever he wanted in the game to reality. Right now, he was not shy about matters between the two sexes. He was even a little enthusiastic. This was the after effect of letting go too much. Of course, Lorne had high expectations of women. He would never have sex with girls who were not pure, especially after he was famous and rich. I can create a Demoness myself and slowly raise it. This feels even better than the NPCs in the game. Very good. Let me think, how do I set up the Demoness monster formula? After confirming the direction, Lorne began to study the synthesis of various Demonesses. He decided that in the future, his pets not only had to have powerful combat strength, but also had to have enough attractiveness. Every one of them had to have their own personality. He would abandon undead monsters like small artillery and replace them with Demonesses. As for Little Spider, should he test it and create a Spider Lady? Chapter 314, Setting Off. Moon's Reflection Lake. The next day, Lorne entered the game early. Today, he had to carry out the mission of the Water of Life. This mission should be very simple. However, the subsequent missions regarding the Soil of Life were more troublesome. He did not think too much about it for the time being. He had to deal with the current mission first. Lorne appeared in the Night Elves' camp. It could be seen that many Night Elves had gathered in the camp. They were all very young and belonged to the Elves. There were about 100 people. Most of them were adult elves who had been corroded by the power of darkness. These elves did not dare to get too close to the young elves, because the dark aura spreading out might affect them, so these elves could only stand far away and watch. Aisha accompanied Elwynn and watched a few newly evolved phantom assassins fight. When they noticed Lorne's arrival, the two were excited. Master! Mr. Tyrant! Aisha hugged Lorne's arm, enjoying the warmth of his body. Elwynn looked at him excitedly and said, "Look, Mr. Tyrant. Those children are the phantom assassins trained with the dragon blood grass yesterday. One of them has even reached rank 2. The Night Elves are indeed natural warriors, but I'm curious. How are the levels of the phantom assassins divided?" Lorne asked curiously. There was no relevant information on Aisha's interface. Therefore, he did not know what stage Aisha was at. It should not be rank 1. After all, it was so powerful. If even rank 1 phantom assassins were so powerful, then wouldn't the elf who had evolved to rank 2 phantom assassin have heaven-defying aptitude? It's actually very easy to classify. Rank 1 to rank 5 phantom assassins are all epic assassins, while Aisha is a legendary assassin. She's the phantom assassin with the highest potential. There's no phantom assassin who's more talented than her. Elwynn explained. Lorne nodded. According to this standard, Aisha's talent was really powerful. This was also in line with her current strength. After all, her current strength was already very heaven-defying. If this was not her strongest potential, then it was too ridiculous. Since we've completed the evolution, let's go. Without hesitation, Lorne led the team out of the Night Elves' camp. There were 4 elves accompanying him this time. 3 rank 1 phantom assassins and 1 rank 2 phantom assassin. The elves had an inexplicable good impression of Lorne, because they knew that it was because of his help that they had today. Therefore, in their hearts, Lorne was their benefactor, and they listened to his commands in the following actions. Lorne liked this team environment. With the company of the entire team of beautiful elves, everyone chatted and laughed. It was wonderful. However, their race was too monotonous. They were all night elves and lacked diversity. Speaking of racial diversity, Lorne could not help but think of the Demoness he had thought about last night. He had edited several proposals of the Demoness, including the Spider Lady synthesis based on Little Spider. The main material was Little Spider, the undead Spider Mother. The additional material was the dark elf corpse that he had obtained not long ago. If the two were combined, he would definitely obtain a good pet. After all, the attributes of the two matched very well, and monsters like the Spider Lady were not that strange. In many games, and even in legends and myths, there were figures of such monsters. Therefore, Lorne felt that the success rate would be very high. However, he was still worried about the success rate. If he failed, the materials lost would be a little precious. After all, it was a complete dark elf corpse. This was definitely a very rare material. After all he had obtained in the past were only body parts. With that in mind, Lorne temporarily put aside his plan. He had to experiment with other materials first. After the experiment was successful, he would carry out this expectant synthesis plan. Then, everyone arrived at their destination. However, because it was in the afternoon, he still had to wait for a while. It had to be late at night before the moon's reflection lake could absorb the light of the stars and condense the water of life. Lorne was in no hurry. He waited quietly. 4 hours passed. At this moment, the sky was already pitch black. The stars in the sky shimmered with their own light. Lorne finally moved. He led the 5 elves into the vicinity of the moon's reflection lake. There was a light screen here, the door to a special dungeon. It would only be opened at a specific time. If not for the fact that he thought of this mission, even if Lorne farmed monsters nearby, he would not have discovered this hidden special dungeon. Ding! You have entered a special dungeon, Moon's Reflection Lake. Dungeon, Moon's Reflection Lake. Quality: time limit, 30 minutes. Description: this lake has a magical power. It can condense the light of the stars in the sky at a special time to form the water of life. It is the place that elves like to go to. There was indeed the water of life. However, this dungeon had a time limit. The longest time was 30 minutes, but the first 20 minutes were when the light gathered. Only in the last 10 minutes could he collect the water of life. As for what he had to do in the first 20 minutes? Of course, it was to snatch a good spot. When monsters approached the core area, they could obtain a lot of energy. If the elves were close enough, they could use special techniques to obtain the special water of life. What Lorne had to do now was snatch enough space to get close. Mr. Tyrant, the rock oxfish in the water has hard rock skin. The steel needle dolphin beside it will spew out needle-like spikes, and it's very difficult to deal with. How should we act now? Corey, a rank 2 phantom assassin, looked at Lorne with her large eyes. The monsters in the water are indeed difficult to deal with. Lorne rubbed his chin. In fact, before setting off, he had obtained the mission tool that Elwynn had given him, the water condensing pearl. This tool could allow him to stand on the water. However, the monsters could go to the bottom of the lake. In this case, they were not easy to deal with. From the looks of it, he could only instantly kill the other party. They could also cripple the other party with explosive damage, so that they would not dare to harass the elves to collect the water of life. Chapter 315, Domination. Aisha, are you confident? Lorne looked at Aisha beside him. She was the main force in this battle. Only she had the ability to instantly kill these boss-level monsters. I do. Aisha did not like to talk, but as long as it was Lorne's request, she would agree firmly. Don't be so serious, Aisha. Just do your best. These bosses are still very stressful for you. Lorne touched her head. There's no need to kill them. Crippling them will give you the same effect. Yes, Aisha will remember. Feeling the gentleness from Lorne, Aisha buried her head shyly, like a naive and adorable little girl. Then, Aisha pulled out the dagger at her waist. Her gem-like eyes were filled with determination. Without saying anything, she stepped into the water and rushed towards the center of the lake. Don't join the battle first. Leave everything to Aisha. When we can collect the water of life, I'll escort you there. Yes, Mr. Tyrant, the elves nodded. Lorne raised his staff and summoned his other pet. Rimuru, follow me. With that, Lorne rushed towards the center of the lake. Rimuru's quality was not high as a mere bronze-grade boss, but it had powerful healing abilities. It could provide excellent endurance in battle and help Lorne block damage. This little guy's main body was a slime. It could not enter the water, or else there was a risk of being diluted. However, because of a special tool, it was lucky to stand on the lake. It was also because it had discovered this effect that Rimuru was abnormally excited after coming out. Ignoring the slime, Lorne focused on Aisha. He used the identification skill to check the monster's attributes. Rock Ox Fish. Grade, Silver Boss. Level, 39. Health, 1.05 million/1.05 million. Defense, 7,500. Skill. Description, a fish-type monster with demon horns. Its entire body is covered by hard rocks and has powerful defense. This monster's level was not high, but its attributes were really powerful. With 7,500 defense attributes and the enhancement of the rock armor, it also had more than 10,000 defense points. It was almost impossible to kill such a monster in seconds. However, Lorne did not want to kill it. As long as Aisha defeated these bosses, the next 10 minutes would be safe. In an instant, Aisha, who was moving quickly, had already arrived near the other party. The dagger in her hand immediately released a hexagram and entered combat. As Aisha attacked, Lorne added his low-level amplification skill to her. Although the quality of the skill was not high, it could increase the damage of attacks by 2%. It could also produce an incomparably huge amplification effect on Aisha. Swish! Swish! The boss rock oxfish jumped out of the water and used its demon horns to try and deal a fatal blow to Aisha. However, the moment Aisha stepped on the water, she leaped up. Her slender figure brushed past the other party in the air. At the same time, the dagger in her hand danced quickly, and countless saber lights and cold lights poured towards the fish's abdomen. Minus 17,500. Minus 187,000, critical. Minus 17,500. Minus 191,000, critical. Minus 29,200. Minus 29,200. Minus 29,200. The rock ox fish dived into the water, leaving a series of high damage numbers in the air. Aisha dealt the damage mercilessly, then gracefully landed on the water. The dagger in her hand was hidden behind her arm, as if she had not done anything dangerous. However, in fact, within 2 seconds of attacking, Aisha dealt a terrifying 14 consecutive hits. Especially the first 4 attacks, she used the effect of leaving invisibility to definitely deal critical hits and skills to increase her basic attack speed. In less than a second, she dealt 4 damage, 2 of which were critical hits. Then, she instantly used the combo skill. Fortunately, 10 combo attacks appeared, finally dealing 292,000 damage. In just an instant, the stone ox fish lost 600,000 health points. She was only 40% away from killing a level 39 silver boss. Moreover, it was a boss with high defense. This strength was simply ridiculously powerful. The elven girls standing on the shore gaped. Heavens, what did they just see? Aisha had almost instantly killed such a powerful boss. This was too crazy. The elven girls were stunned. They thought that as phantom assassins, they were already very powerful. In the end, compared to Aisha, there was a huge difference. This was beyond their imagination. Aisha is becoming more and more savage. Lorne smiled. To be honest, he was also very surprised by the scene before him. Who would have thought that just level 32 Aisha could instantly deal 600,000 damage? This was indeed too shocking. However, on second thought, it was normal. After all, Lorne had 2 mythical equipment on him, and Aisha had demigod equipment on her. In addition, she was a legendary phantom assassin. It made sense that she could deal such damage. This time, the rock ox fish would not dare to approach the center of the lake, right? While Lorne was thinking, Aisha attacked again. There were many monsters around. There were several boss-level monsters, each huge and with astonishing attributes. Fortunately, these bosses were only around level 40. They could only have 20% damage reduction against Aisha. This level suppression was not fatal, and compared to previous battles, it was nothing. Aisha was also immersed in the scene of being able to deal full damage. The sharp blades in her hand danced, and she quickly turned and jumped, launching a waltz from the center of the lake. Pft, pft, pft. Countless saber beams flew out and landed on the monsters. If it was only a normal attack, it would be acceptable. However, once the critical hit effect appeared, they would be completely flustered, because a single critical hit would take away nearly 200,000 health points. Even a boss with 1,000,000 health points could not withstand such a terrifying attack. Just like that, under Aisha's crazy attacks, the boss that had appeared now shrank into the water. Although they could not kill any boss, it made the health of these monsters drop to a dangerous level. Although their recovery was very strong, when they thought of how they were almost killed, they did not dare to come to the water again. Aisha held a pair of daggers and stood quietly in the center of the lake. As long as any monster showed its head, it would be attacked immediately. Just like that, the surface of the lake was calm for 20 minutes. The time to condense the water of life had finally arrived. Chapter 316, Bull Python Leader. Go collect the water of life. Yes, Mr. Tyrant. After receiving the order, the elves ran towards the center of the lake. After reaching the designated location, their bodies emitted a silver light, and energy was gathered. Holding her dagger, Aisha stood nearby, wary of the monsters at the bottom of the lake. These monsters had been subdued by the pair of daggers in the past 20 minutes. They could only hide underwater and did not dare to appear. Therefore, the elves quickly obtained the water of life they wanted. However, just as they were about to leave, a huge wave suddenly appeared on the lake, as if something incomparably huge was about to rush out. Lorne quickly let the elves retreat to the shore. When the elves left the center, an incomparably huge monster appeared. Its 10-meter-long head emerged from the water, and its demon horns were abnormally hideous. Damn, the final boss has appeared. Lorne did not retreat. This monster was clearly the largest boss in the dungeon. He wondered if he would receive more rewards after killing it. With that in mind, Lorne waved his staff again, this time summoning all his pets. This boss was astonishingly large. It was like a python, but it had a hideous bull head. Its terrifying horns were abnormally huge. At this moment, it was staring at Aisha with its huge blood-red eyes. Bull Python Leader. Grade, Silver Boss. Level, 45. Health, 1.8 million. Defense, 9,900. Skill. Introduction, a huge bull python leader with earth-shattering strength. Its hard scales give it powerful defense. Even powerful Empire warriors will be afraid of this terrifying creature. It was indeed a big guy. Although it was also a silver boss, its attributes were much stronger than the previous boss. Especially under the circumstances that it was so huge, the pressure it brought was incomparable. The elves standing on the shore were stunned. It's the bull python leader. Mr. Tyrant, Aisha, leave quickly. Heavens, is this the most powerful monster hiding in the moon's reflection lake? No, we can't let Mr. Tyrant face this monster alone. We have to help them. The elves entered combat state and drew their daggers. But at that moment, they were rejected by Lorne. Such a battle was clearly not something they could participate in now. He would leave it to Aisha. Aisha, we're going up. Yes, Master. The two of them quickly entered combat state, and Aisha charged at the boss. The pets behind also joined the battle. Although the combat strength they provided was very limited, with their boss-level constitution, they could still provide some help. At this moment, everyone rushed forward. Aisha's attack was the first to land. The two sharp blades turned into light and quickly cut through the boss body. -9,253. -137,050, critical. -9,477. -17,501. -17,501. -17,501. A series of damage values floated. Although there was a level suppression above 10, it did not affect Aisha's damage output. Her combat strength was still fierce, but it was slightly lower than before. After a set of skills, she dealt about 300,000 damage. However, this was still damage that the bull python leader could withstand. Roar! The bull python leader let out a furious roar. A huge body more than 200 meters tall rushed out from the bottom of the lake, turning the moon's reflection lake upside down. Lorne moved as far away from the center of the battlefield as possible. The commotion of this battle was too great. Just the impact of the lake water made it difficult for a level 40 player like him to withstand, much less face such a huge boss. But Aisha was not afraid. Her body danced in the air, and she did not even retreat. Instead, she stepped on the monster and charged at its head. Slash! The sharp dagger stabbed into the boss head. Perhaps the edge of the blade was very shallow, but the power transmitted actually dealt huge damage to the bull python leader. At the same time, the other pets also attacked. Compared to the boss in front of them, they were very weak, but they knew very well that they did not need to deal much damage to this boss. They only needed to restrict its movements. Poisonous spider web. Spider spear storm. Sticky spray. Ultrasound. Rapid fire. The pets used all their skills and attacked. Especially Little Spider, it directly followed in Aisha's footsteps and rushed up the boss's body, using its high health points to help Aisha block the incoming tail attack. With such help, the difficulty of the following battle decreased greatly. She clung tightly to the boss, the sharp blades in her hands never stopping. It could be seen that the health points of the bull python leader were decreasing crazily. Even if it had 1.8 million health points, it could not withstand such terrifying damage. In fact, its fate had been sealed long ago. A few days ago, the mountain giant king who attacked the cold desolate dragon city had suffered the same fate. Because their attributes were almost the same. If not for the battle on the lake today, the entire battle time would have been greatly reduced. In fact, it would have ended in just 2 to 3 minutes. Seeing that the boss health had decreased to 10%, Lorne began to consider something. Should he subdue this boss? The pets beside Lorne clearly could not keep up with the progress. Most of the battles were completed by Aisha. They were very useless. This was not a good sign. Lorne's initial idea was to let all his pets be powerful and be independent in the future. But clearly, the current situation was not satisfactory. It was also because of this that he wanted to keep this boss as a pet. As he thought this, Lorne suddenly realized something. He could not do that. This was because the goal he had set for himself was to create a Demoness now. Although this boss was indeed very powerful, it was far from the Demoness he had expected. Moreover, because of the appearance of the bull head, it did not look too appealing. After some thought, Lorne gave up on the boss. After obtaining his agreement, Aisha also began to use her most fatal attack on the bull python leader. The saber light intertwined into a fishing net that directly covered the boss. Under such terrifying damage, the bull python leader finally could not hold on and fell down. Because of the special map, after killing the boss, the loot would temporarily stop on the lake. If he did not take the loot in time, it would quickly sink into the water. Lorne did not stop. He immediately stepped forward to clean up the battlefield. Chapter 317, Repairing the Lost Legacy Divine Equipment. Soon, Lorne put the loot away. This boss was a dungeon monster. After killing it, the loot dropped was naturally very rich. When it sank to the bottom of the lake, Lorne immediately obtained 7 pieces of equipment, many of which were high level. At the same time, he also obtained some materials for synthesis. Forest Blade. Grade, Platinum. Attributes. Introduction, a dagger that contains the power of nature. It is the favorite weapon of the elves. The first piece of equipment was a special dagger. This was not an ordinary equipment, but one that could be used by NPCs. Moreover, the attributes of this equipment were abnormally outstanding. To the night elves who were good at hunting, this was a weapon worth fighting for. Lorne glanced at Aisha, but she did not want the equipment. Therefore, he turned to look at Corey and said, "I'll let you use these daggers. I hope you can grow up as soon as possible and contribute to the rise of the night elves. Are you really handing this equipment to me?" The elven girl was overjoyed. After the race left the Emerald City, there were very few opportunities to reward such excellent equipment to the young elves. She did not expect to obtain a pair today. It was great. Carrying the dagger, Corey loved it so much that she could not help but give Lorne an intimate hug when she was most happy. Aisha smiled and did not take it to heart. She did not care how many beautiful women her master had. As long as she could stay by her master's side, Aisha was satisfied. Then, Lorne took out other equipment. As long as it was equipment that the night elves could wear, he gave it to them generously. Although the equipment was given to the night elves, Lorne believed that soon, these night elves would become his people, adding a powerful force to the cold, desolate Dragon City. Hey? What is this? In the end, Lorne took out a strange metal block. The information displayed on the interface was unknown, but in the introduction at the bottom, there was a clear indication that the Night Elves leader knew its identity. Seeing this, Lorne did not stay any longer and returned to the Night Elves camp with his things. Soon, everyone saw Elwynn. When Lorne took out the metal block, Elwynn's eyes widened as if she had seen something incredible. "Heavens, Mr. Tyrant, where did you obtain this treasure?" Elwynn looked at him in shock. This confused Lorne. Was this metal piece a treasure? Moreover, it was a treasure that could shock even the Night Elf Queen. Was there really a special meaning behind it? After some thought, Lorne immediately explained. He did not hide anything about the bull python leader and said it all. After hearing this information, Elwynn nodded in realization. "Mr. Tyrant, you don't know this, but this metal block is actually the divine equipment lost by the Night Elves. Unfortunately, it is too damaged and is about to lose its divinity. The current Night Elves do not have the ability to repair it." At this point, Elwynn was a little depressed. After all, this was the divine equipment of the race. After being lost for many years, she finally saw it again. However, who knew that the divine equipment had already been damaged to this extent? What was even more tragic was that the current knight race no longer had the funds and ability to repair it. A race that could not even repair their racial divine equipment was simply tragic to the extreme. What do you need? Perhaps I can help you. As a senior high-level player, he could naturally hear the special thoughts hidden within. Moreover, divine equipment was Lorne's favorite thing. If not for the two divine equipment on him, he would not have such magnificent attributes, much less receive high critical damage. In order to repair the equipment, we must use the special treasure of the elves. Natural crystal, this is a special energy crystal that only the high elves can collect. In the past, high elves, the night elves could also bathe in the glory of the holy temple and collect natural crystals. However, the current night elves have already been reduced to low-level elves. Not to mention bathing in glory, we have not even entered the holy temple. With that, Elwynn smiled bitterly. The glory of the past was long gone. Now, they could not even repair the inherited divine equipment of their race. It was really tragic. In other words, as long as I help you bring back the natural crystal, you can recover this divine equipment, right? Lorne touched his chin and asked casually. Yes, but the natural crystal is a gem that only the high elves can have, and the natural crystals of the Emerald City have basically been used by the Dragon of Emerald to decorate its castle. The dragon values its wealth greatly, so you have no chance of obtaining the natural crystal from her. There's no need for Queen Elwynn to worry. I'll think of a way to resolve this, but I need you to promise me something. Lorne looked at her. What is it? Elwynn was confused. The ownership of this divine equipment will belong to me. Lorne stated his purpose. Elwynn pondered and finally agreed to his request. Ding! Game announcement, congratulations on accepting the hidden mission, repair the lost legacy divine equipment. Mission description, head to the Emerald City and obtain enough natural crystals to repair the inherited divine equipment. The more natural crystals you find, the higher the degree of repair of the divine equipment. A system notification appeared. Lorne glanced at it and noticed a clear path on the map. It led to Emerald City. However, just as Lorne was about to leave, Elwynn suddenly called out to him, "Mr. Tyrant, don't be in a hurry to leave. I have something to tell you." "What is it?" "It's about you and Aisha." Elwynn said, "Perhaps you know very well that elves cannot contract with any race. This is a taboo among the elves. Once they violate it, they will face the pursuit of the entire elf race. I can say that even if you are the city lord of Iron Skull City, it is impossible for you to appease the anger of the elves. They will even completely break off relations with the human empire. This is definitely not an exaggeration. Of course, as an adventurer, you have one more advantage than the people of other races or even the human empire." Chapter 318, Elf Contract. Many years ago, adventurers protected the last ancient tree of life of the elves, so they had a special relationship with adventurers. Originally, there were strict rules against all races, but to adventurers, there was another special privilege. Despite the taboo of the elves, if anyone wants to form a relationship with the elves, they must be adventurers. However, because the era is too ancient, the requirement for this possibility has become higher and higher. To this day, many high elves do not want to acknowledge this rule, but because of this history, it is impossible to erase. However, they have also thought of a way to let adventurers who want to be tied to the elves pass a very difficult test. Only by passing this test can you obtain the recognition of the elves. With this mark, it's equivalent to the elves acknowledging your ability. The teleportation circle that originally led to the test is owned by all the high nobles and by the night elves. However, ever since we were driven away by the Emerald City, we no longer have this right. Therefore, Mr. Tyrant, you have to go to the Emerald City to enter. Before you obtain recognition, you must not let others know about Aisha's identity. You can't even let others know that there is a bond between you and Aisha. Otherwise, you will encounter the hatred of the elves and might even be blocked from entering the dungeon of the test. Elwynn looked at him seriously and said earnestly. Ding! Game announcement: congratulations on accepting a hidden mission, elf contract. Mission description: head to the Emerald City and enter the test dungeon set by the elves for adventurers. Complete this dungeon and obtain the recognition of the elf contract. The system notification sounded. His missions increased again. First of all, he needed to go to the Elven Holy Temple in the Emerald City to obtain the needed Soil of Life. Then, he had to obtain the natural crystal that could repair the divine equipment. Finally, if he passed the forbidden test of the elves, he would be qualified to contract with them. These 3 missions were not easy to complete, especially the last one. From Elwynn, it was known that the High Elves were also very hostile to adventurers. They despised adventurers and would not give them a chance to contract an elf. The reason for arranging this test was mainly to not break the previous rules. After all, they were set by the ancient elven sages. Therefore, it was obvious that the taboo test that Lorne was about to pass was very difficult for a man to pass. However, Lorne was confident in his strength. If this test arranged by the system could be cleared, even if there was only a 1 in 10,000 chance, he would definitely be able to fulfill the requirement. His strength had already exceeded the players countless times. If even he could not complete the mission, it would be an impossible test for everyone. If that was the case, there was nothing to say. At most, he would break off all friendly relations with the elves. In any case, no one could tear off his relationship with Aisha. With that in mind, Lorne left the Night Elves camp. On the way, Lorne noticed that Aisha was feeling a little better. The grim situation that the Night Elves were facing had always worried her. But with Lorne's help, the situation of the Night Elves gradually improved, giving Aisha hope. When she walked into the free forest, Aisha was clearly much livelier, and there were many smiles on her face. Of course, a large part of the reason was that the two of them already had 190,000 affinity points and were only a step away from being close friends. Therefore, their interaction gradually became intimate. Moreover, as long as Lorne was around, Aisha felt safe. Even if she knew that there were other elves ahead, she was still filled with confidence. The gem-like eyes were filled with trust in Lorne. However, as he made more intimate contact, Lorne received a sudden warning. Ding! Your relationship with Aisha is not enough to progress further. Your frivolous behavior has caused your affinity to -1. Pfft! He only wanted to check Aisha's body. This system was too unfair. Lorne was speechless. Time passed quickly. After traveling through the nature forest for 5 hours, they finally saw a huge city, but unlike Iron Skull City, it was built on a huge ancient tree. Yes, it was built on a tree. Standing on this mountaintop, what appeared in front of him was a towering tree. The trunk of the large tree was like a towering mountain, and at the top was a huge island. Various huge branches intertwined, supporting the entire huge island. The huge Emerald City was surprisingly located on this sky island. That's Emerald City. Aisha stared ahead, her entire being filled with yearning. She had lived on the run since she was young and had never seen this legendary elf city. Because of her hostility towards the High Elves, she hated the Emerald City and even thought that it was a city where demons gathered. However, who knew that the Emerald City that her mother had mentioned many times was actually like this? This was beyond her imagination. Emerald City. A city in the sky. It was so beautiful. If only it had not done those things to the Night Elves. Aisha felt many emotions. At this moment, Lorne gently put on her hood and said, "There's no need to envy them. In the future, the cold desolate dragon city will gradually walk towards glory. After the basic construction of the city is completed, I'll let the gnomes carve out an area and replicate this Emerald City. I even want to build a better place than them, and you will be the queen of that city." Queen. When she heard these words, Aisha was stunned. To a girl who was completely ignorant of love, such sweet words were like a nuclear bomb blooming in front of her, causing her mind to go blank. Because of this, Lorne gained 3,000 affinity points again, inching even closer to becoming her close friend. Chapter 319, Arriving at Emerald City. Standing in the simple camp below Emerald City, Aisha whispered in Lorne's ear, "Master, why don't I return to the pet space?" She was a night elf. If she was discovered, it would implicate Lorne that he could not enter the Emerald City and might even be hunted down by the Emerald City. Especially if the relationship between the two was discovered, it would attract the hatred of the entire elves. Therefore, for safety's sake, Aisha felt that it was best for her to return to the pet space first. At the very least, this would be extremely convenient for Lorne. However, Lorne touched her head. "It's okay. They would not have thought that the night elves would take the initiative to appear in the Emerald City. Therefore, as long as we pay attention, we will not be discovered." Lorne felt bad that Aisha liked the city so much but did not have the chance to play. It was as Lorne had imagined. Because it was the Emerald City and the Dragon of Emerald often descended, this was almost the safest city. For so many years, no one dared to cause trouble here. Even the minions of the dark forces did not dare to approach this area. Coupled with the fact that they had been in such a safe state for a long time, the guards here eventually lacked protective awareness, especially when one was willing to pay a high price. These elf guards would be very friendly to generous people. In the end, Lorne obtained the right to go to the Emerald City by bribing them with a gold coin pouch. Even Aisha was easily let through. Standing on the teleportation circle, the two quickly disappeared. When they reappeared, Lorne realized that he had arrived in the Emerald City. It could be seen that this was a very exquisite city. The materials used for construction were not rocks, but very hard wood. These high-level wood had powerful defense. In terms of strength, they even exceeded steel. In terms of beauty, it far exceeded the cold rocks and metal pieces. Lorne liked this natural scene, and so did Aisha. As a member of the elves, Aisha had a natural affinity with this city. Coupled with the fact that she rarely entered large cities, it made her look like a child who had just entered a city for the first time. Her eyes kept looking around, feeling curious about everything in the surroundings. However, when she saw some high elves traveling, she would subconsciously lower her head and hide behind Lorne. Lorne caught her hand and gave her some encouragement. Then, he led Aisha around the city to taste the food. Although the mission was urgent, it was not short. However, what Lorne did not realize was that as the two of them ate, a player from the Domination Guild discovered them. "Leader, that hooded elf looks a little familiar." The warrior player in the team pointed at the two people not far away and looked confused. From his current angle, he could see the side of Aisha's face. Moreover, Aisha was eating. In her happiness, she accidentally exposed her long ears. It was obvious that she was an elf with sharp ears, but elves with moon-white skin and hair color like her were too rare in this city. Most people had not seen such an elf for decades. However, the players of the Domination Guild were different. They had responded to unparalleled Domination's orders and had hunted the Night Elves many times. They had also helped the Night Elves, so many people knew the Night Elves. Their team had not participated in the corresponding mission in the past, but they had seen the video of unparalleled Domination attacking the Night Elves yesterday, so they had an impression of it. "It's a little familiar. I think I've seen it somewhere before." The leader observed carefully and was very confused, but he quickly reacted, "Damn! Isn't this the Night Elf we saw yesterday?" Hearing this, the others immediately understood. However, there were also people who were confused. "That's not right, boss. Weren't the Night Elves exiled by the Emerald City?" Moreover, there was a public announcement that the nearby Night Elves were not allowed to enter. Who knows? It might be the Night Elves from other cities. Just as the leader said this, the lackey beside him suddenly looked as if he had seen a ghost and shouted in surprise, "Leader! Leader, that Night Elf seems to be a player, and it seems to be Tyrant." "Tyrant?" The leader player quickly looked over and the next moment, his eyes widened. Damn! It's really Tyrant. Leader, we're going to be rich. This Tyrant is really suicidal. He actually brought the Night Elves to the Emerald City. This is our chance. As long as we inform the elves, we can definitely make Tyrant suffer. Several players spoke. However, at this moment, the leader player shook his head. If we really do this, the elves will definitely not believe us. Have you forgotten that you used this information to deceive the players who wanted the reward? After doing this several times, the elves are already very against this kind of information. If we report like this, we will probably be locked in the dungeon in the next second. What should we do? We can't watch Tyrant live happily in the city, right? That's right, leader. There's also a reward for killing Tyrant in the guild. We all want to earn some money and improve our lives. The lackeys panicked. The clear price given by the guild was a total of 1 million alliance dollars. Even if everyone divided it, they could obtain more than $100,000. This was not a small number to them. The leader player also wanted to obtain the reward. After thinking for a while, he said seriously, "Brothers, why don't we directly tell Boss Barbarian the information? Even if we can't obtain $1 million, Boss Barbarian will definitely not treat us badly. In any case, the few of us can't do other methods alone. Only this method can give us some income. How about it, what do you think? That's all we can do. Sigh, this is the result of limited strength. That's right. The opportunity is right in front of us, but we can't grasp it. Let's not talk about it. Leader, quickly contact him. It's better to earn as much as possible than nothing. Since you agree, I'll contact him now." The leader player nodded and said to the two assassin players, "The two of you keep an eye on Tyrant and report their location at any time. Don't let him escape." "Yes, leader." Chapter 320, Taboo Mystic Realm. After entering the city, Lorne and Aisha strolled around. Coincidentally, at this moment, he discovered his target building Elven Holy Temple. Originally, he did not want to complete the mission for the time being, but since he had encountered it, he would complete the mission first. Lorne made Aisha wait near the elf temple, because the security in this temple was very tight. Moreover, when he was touring the Emerald City, he learned a very important piece of information. That was, no elf could enter the forbidden checkpoint of the elves. Yes, Lorne could not bring Aisha in. This was a huge problem. After all, Aisha was the main power of the team. Now that she could not participate, Lorne's strength had decreased by at least 90%. Such troublesome rules. Lorne did feel a little troubled. However, that was all. Even without Aisha's help, he still had the confidence to clear it. At this moment, Lorne arrived at the Elven Holy Temple alone. In a very hidden and inconspicuous corner, there was only an old elf who was dozing. Clearly, this place did not need to be guarded in the eyes of the elves. In any case, with the strength of the adventurers, it was impossible to clear it successfully. "Haven't you learned your lesson, you greedy weaklings?" Sensing that someone had arrived, the old elf slowly raised his head and said, "The Taboo Mystic Realm is very dangerous. I advise you to leave quickly. With your strength that has not even reached the Earth Realm, you think you can contract an elf? Stop dreaming." The corners of Lorne's mouth curled up. In fact, he already had an elf pet. He came to challenge the level now only because he did not want to be too troubled in the future. After all, the cold desolate dragon city would be a true free city in the future. If he caused a conflict with the entire elves, it would definitely be detrimental to his future development. If not for this reason, who would care about their opinions? Without a word, Lorne stepped through the portal. Ding! You have entered a highly dangerous map. Taboo Mystic Realm. Dungeon, Taboo Mystic Realm. Difficulty? Special effect, all adventurers who enter this mystic realm will be reduced to level 40 and their attributes will also decrease correspondingly. Adventurers below level 40 will not be affected. Special effect: after dying in this dungeon, the adventurer will suffer a huge loss. If the adventurer's level is higher than 40, after failing, the adventurer's level will directly decrease to 40, and he will definitely lose the 4 equipment with the highest rating. If the adventurer's level does not exceed 40, his level will directly decrease by 10, and he will definitely lose the 4 equipment with the highest rating. Requirement: kill all the monsters produced in the dungeon. Requirement: 120 minutes. Introduction: in order to thank the adventurer who protected the ancient tree of life 10,000 years ago, the elves have specially set up this mystic realm. As long as one passes this mystic realm, they can obtain the title of Intimate One and obtain the right to contract the elves. How ruthless! Lorne could not help but swallow at the sight of the consequences of failure. These elves did not want any adventurer to pass this dungeon, or else they would not have set up such a terrifying failure punishment. For the current players, as long as they failed in this mystic realm, they would directly lose 10 levels and 4 equipment with the highest ratings. No player could withstand such a punishment. Even Lorne would shiver. Losing 10 levels was not a loss to him. However, losing 4 pieces of equipment could directly make his mind explode. After all, he had 2 mythical equipment on him. If he lost them, Lorne would really be sad for a few days. Looks like I can only succeed this time. I can't fail. Lorne did not feel much burden. Even without Aisha, he was completely confident in his combat ability. With that in mind, he waved his staff, and the summoning circle flashed. The remaining pets appeared. Now that Aisha was not around, Little Spider became the main attacker. It was a silver boss with very powerful attributes. Its attack panel had already increased to 7,225 points, much stronger than the silver bosses in the event. Previously, he had not had a good result because Aisha had taken 90% of the damage of the team, so it had been very marginalized and could not be noticed. However, now that Little Spider was the main force in the battle, it was very excited and was already eager to try. Coincidentally, in the valley ahead, the roar of a monster sounded. When Lorne neared, he immediately saw a pack of wild wolves the size of bulls. They bared their teeth, their muscles tensed, their fur standing on end, and their blood-red eyes stared at the intruder. Mutated Wild Wolf. Grade: Special Monster. Level: 40. Health: 20,000. Attack: 1950 to 2800. Defense: 1000. Skill. Introduction: a group of wild wolves imprisoned in a special space. Due to the influence of the environment, they gradually became savage and terrifying wolves. Their sharp claws can tear apart any armor. Moreover, they like to move in groups. They are the cruelest hunters in the forbidden mystic realm. A level 40 monster actually had 2,800 attack points. This was indeed special. At the very least, such an attack power was relatively rare on non-boss level monsters. Moreover, this was the first monster they had encountered. Under normal circumstances, the first monster they encountered was often the weakest monster in the dungeon. According to this convention, the monsters he would encounter in the future would probably be stronger than expected. Kill them all. With that in mind, Lorne gave the order. Little Spider, who could no longer hold back, immediately controlled its 8 sickle-like long legs to charge forward. When it approached the other party, the spider spears were already like the scythe of a death god, harvesting crazily. The thick fur of the wild wolf was useless against it. Just by touching it, it was cut by the sharp spider spear, and its flesh was instantly exposed to the air. At the same time, because Little Spider had high attack power, the health points of these wolves decreased crazily. -3,085. -3,081. -3,093. minus 3077. Minus 3069. Because it attacked with many legs at the same time, Little Spider's attack speed was far faster than other pets. Even without using any skills, a series of numbers immediately floated in the sky. Because Little Spider's level was relatively low, it was severely suppressed. Seeing this, Lorne immediately used the experience points he had stored. Swish! Golden light sprinkled down. Little Spider quickly reached level 36. The increase in level gave Little Spider higher attack attributes, and the level suppression effect of the two sides disappeared. At this moment, Little Spider's damage output increased by several times. Every attack could reduce the health points of the mutated wolves by a large amount.